Denny, 2019 started off with the car unveil, the crew chief unveil. Coming off last year, I'm not sure if fans were as confident, in you guys as you came out of the gate as strong. So what's been that secret to success to coming out and getting that Daytona win, that Texas win, and then the success down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the cars are fast, which makes my job a lot easier. When you win Daytona, you've got the win under your belt. You don't race any differently. I don't think from a crew chief's perspective, I don't think he did anything differently just because you win the first race of the season. But certainly, it gives yourself a little momentum. Obviously, coming off a winless season last year, it wasn't like we weren't competitive. We just didn't get the win. I knew that this was going to be a rebound year. I knew that what our potential was. I knew that I was still very capable of competing at the highest level, and we just have been getting it done.
Chris, what's the number one thing when you met with Denny before the season started? What's the one thing you thought Denny needed, and did your guys' late model background kind of help you guys click a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you look at it technically, although I don't think this is the secret, I've driven race cars before, and I think I've never driven these kind of cars. I've never driven a lot of these kind of tracks, but I find myself all the time in certain situations relating to my experience the things that he may be fighting, and I may think of a question to ask because of that or whatever. So I think those nuances are certainly important. But I think it's just, the intensity to win and coming in with a fresh group of faces. It's not just me, it's the car chief, Eric Phillips, and a different way to lead the group. We made a lot of extra changes on the FedEx Camry, and it's been showing. I think the intensity's there just every week, and we're having a lot of fun.
Other than Daytona, the two wins that stick out to me are Texas and Bristol. Overcame adversity in both of those races.
Don't worry about it, man. Play the ball from where it lands. One down, 300 to go.
For you, where does that mentality come from? And Denny, how does having a cheerleader on the box like that help you?
Yeah, I mean, he's not always the most positive cheerleader, but no, I mean, he keeps me straight. I mean, we stay focused constantly. I mean, I think that's one thing that really I like about his style is that he has the play the ball where it lies. I have the so what, now what, phrase, and they both mean the same thing, is we can't control what happened in the past. Let's just, how can we optimize our day from this position that we're in right now? And so I think that that's really helped us this season rebound from races where we have adversity in the middle of it.
I say it all the time, look, with the resources that we have at Joe Gibbs Racing, with FedEx and Toyota and all the people here and the fast cars that we have, if we don't have the ability to rebound with all that, who does? Drivers as capable as Denny Hamlin. So I truly look at every situation as we can win from here. What next? And I think we've done a good job proving that.
Throughout the season, Denny, I think your confidence, at least in my eyes, has grown. We sat down at Daytona for Media Day. We sat down in Sonoma, and I could tell a big difference. But when you walked in the media center at Bristol post-race, something just struck me as being different. What's changed this year in terms of, between the ears maybe with the confidence level, and how has that helped you on the racetrack?
Well, I mean, you can't deny that. I mean, if you have a winless season, and like you talked about with the resources that we have, you question how you're doing things. So I got to look in the mirror as much as anyone when I don't have success on the racetrack. And I think that this year, I went to work on those things. Really, I feel like the confidence, I would say at Bristol, probably came from really the last two wins that we had. Both Pocono and Bristol were come from behind, go up there, pass the leader with about 10 to go in both of them and win the race. They weren't just races where you control it, you're able to block for the lead and you win a race or you win it on strategy. We went up there and raced and passed and took the lead and did it the hard way. So that of course gives you confidence as a driver, but really just over the performance over the course of the year that has gotten progressively better and better, and it still has not peaked yet. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. We've not still optimized where we think we're going to be in these last 10.
Chris, what's his ceiling in terms of confidence, in terms of behind the wheel of the race cars you put together?
Well, he's He's just such a professional. Soft-spoken, carries a big stick, I think, and his stick gets bigger and bigger with confidence, as any great athlete would. What I think the most of Denny is something he mentioned after Bristol, where he started setting up the pass with 50 to go with Matt, and he was detailed enough to understand how to catch him, throw him off guard, and then kind of pull a punch and go a different direction and take the win. And I think when you're thinking at that level, at a racetrack as hard as Bristol, people don't understand just how hard a racetrack like that is to drive, and you still have the ability to slow down your surroundings enough around you to think that methodically and execute. I think that just shows you the kind of guy you're dealing with.
So at Bristol, in that press conference, you talked about becoming a man and maturing. How much did losing JD before the season started, and what role did coach maybe play in that maturation process?
It was a turning point, I mean, for sure. I mean, I don't know whether it's directly linked to the success that we've had this year or not, but I know that certainly, you know, I remember going to the service, and I mean, I can't remember the last time I've cried, actually. I mean, you just see the influence that JD had from so many different people, and I mean, you saw all the lives that he touched. I mean, they filled an auditorium there. And it really was an emotional time, and obviously we had to turn around, kind of get ready for Daytona, and to win that race was just, you know, it just was the icing on the cake. And obviously it was my first thought, kind of when I got out of the car there. You saw me kind of pointing to the sticker, and so we knew that JD was definitely riding with us. And you know, Joe has accomplished so much in his career as a coach, as a team owner, and for him to say that was by far his most significant win over everything he's accomplished, it kind of put it in perspective to me how big it was for their family.
All right, the regular season's in the rearview mirror now. As you focus towards the playoffs, do you guys have a weakness? Do you guys see a weakness in any of these 10 races coming up?
Not right now. I just feel like when I show up, I'm gonna have a race-winning car. It's on me to kind of make sure I'm doing the right things during practice, giving the right information. I really don't have any fears to speak of. I mean, I think that without a doubt, in my mind, performance will not keep us from being in the Final Four at Homestead. It's going to be circumstances either out of our control or mistakes that we make. That's as simple as it is. There's no doubt that I know that we're good enough to be there just off of our performance alone.
Chris, when you look at Denny, when you look at how those tracks line up, I mean, there's at least one track in every round where you guys can win at. What's that do for a crew chief in the confidence to be able to advance and win a championship from on top of the box?
Well, I think Denny hit the nail on the head, honestly. I think the first 26 races with a rookie crew chief, all you could hope for would be able to get to the point where the ball is actually in your court, and we're there. The performance is there. It's not going to keep us from advancing as far as we're capable of advancing. It's just a matter of execution now. We don't need outside circumstances. We don't need breaks. We don't need things to go our way. We simply have to execute. We have to have what I call green races in my stat book every week that he and I talk about. And even in non-green races, which Texas wasn't, Bristol wasn't, we still are finding ways to win. We're capable of not only performing, but coming from behind. And I think if we continue to execute, we're going to be just fine.
Denny, you look at the guys you came in the sport with, guys like Harvick, Truex, Kyle Busch. These guys have titles. Not a lot of people get a chance to redeem themselves or to do things over. When you look back in the rearview mirror at 2010, how motivated are you to seize the opportunity this year, being one of the favorites going into this? And you said it yourself, the only weakness to keep you out of Homestead is things out of your control. How big is that in your mind? And do you feel like you're due to win a title in Cup?
I mean, it doesn't owe you anything. I mean, I'm not gonna think that the racing gods owe me anything. Certainly things didn't work out in our favor, the couple opportunities that we've had to win a championship, but certainly on performance and you know how we're running currently, it's not been sustained this good since 2010. The benefit is from now to 2010 is we're actually starting ahead of the game. Back then it was a 10-race deal, and but right now I think we have the second most playoff points. We're already ahead of the game, so it's on us now to continue to advance. And listen, anything can happen. This is a 3-race season 3 times over, and then we have a 1 race shootout at the end. And anything can happen. And I think that Chris said something good at the beginning of the year when we talked about goals and whatnot, is that the goal is to win the championship, but the goal is just to get to Homestead. However that race plays out, it plays out, because it's just a 1 race thing. But our job is, if we get to Homestead, we've executed a great year. And I think that we're plenty capable of that. And 2010 really doesn't, it doesn't haunt me in any kind of way. I was only 4 years into my Cup career at the time. I'm 10 years further now. I'm a different driver, certainly. I think that, if I'd had, the outlook and the mentality that I had now, back then, probably would have been on top, but certainly you can't go back. And the good part about this is I've still got race winning cars and still an opportunity to go out there and get mine, per se. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities, and it's not all hinged on 1 race, 1 year. And this is going to be a work that's been in the process for many, many races now. But certainly, I've always said, just get me back in that situation again. The closest we had was 2014, and leading the race there with 9 to go, and an untimely caution comes out. And so things just happen sometimes that are out of your control. But what we want to control is making sure we don't mess up ourselves. And if we do that, we're gonna have our chance come Miami.
This last question's pointed, yes or no. Heads up, Homestead 11 versus the field. Yes or no? Can you do it?
Yes.
Yeah, would be here if we didn't.
Appreciate you.
Yep.